President Buhari inaugurates National Committee on Poverty Reduction. Senate President says no money has been released for renovation of National Assembly Complex. And federal government lists conditions to lift suspension on Twitter. Glad to have you join us on News Now. I am Oni Adekunle. As part of efforts to eradicate poverty in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated a National Steering Committee of the National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy. The committee, which will be chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, is aimed at lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. Our correspondent Folashade Ogunrinde tells us more.
With a bleak economic forecast by global economic agencies, President Muhammadu Buhari is leaving no stone unturned in his quest for solutions. No thanks to COVID-19, Nigeria's weak economy has become more vulnerable, with 40% of Nigerians, that is 83 million people, living below poverty line. The mandate of the newly established National Steering Committee of the National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy is to resolve to an appreciable level the poverty situation in the country.
This journey began in January 2021 when I directed the chairman of the Prudential Economic Advisory Council and secretary to the government of the Federation to collaboratively work together to articulate an edifice that will lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. The process of designing this inclusive poverty reduction strategy recognized and addressed past mistakes, as well as laying the foundation for a sustainable poverty reduction through the wide range of consultations held at all levels of government, development partners, the private sector, as well as the civil society.
President Buhari charges the committee to use India's success in alleviating poverty as its benchmark.
The major challenge before the National Steering Committee is to translate our good intention into positive impact of every Nigerian so that we create an appreciative impact on the poverty situation in the country.
Enumerating the strategies to actualize this goal, the chairman of the committee and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said job creation, increased taxation, and economic diversification is key to economic growth.
The strategic measures in respect of industrialization, economic diversification, agricultural modernization, and trade will lead to greater productivity. Increased tax revenues from a more productive economy will in turn provide the fiscal resources for increased investment in the delivery of public services, infrastructure, and social security programs. Thus, this strategy is hinged on a vision of greater productivity and efficient redistribution.
With a double-digit inflation rate, which has pushed an estimated 7 million Nigerians below the poverty line in 2020 alone, the Committee on Poverty Reduction has its job cut out for it. Folashade Ogunrinde, TV360 News.
The Federal Executive Council has approved the commencement of the second peer review country self-assessment report. This was disclosed by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, at the weekly meeting in Abuja on Wednesday. Adesina reveals that the review will be done by the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD.
Nigeria is ready for the second peer review country self-assessment report to be done by NEPAD. I think the last self-assessment report was done 10 years ago on Nigeria. Now Nigeria is ready for the second review, self-assessment report, and it's been discussed at the Council, and the President has granted the approval that that peer review report can be conducted on Nigeria. While 10 years ago, petroleum contributed more than 70%, even up to 90% to our GDP. You will find that today petroleum contributes just about 45%, and non-oil products contribute about 55% to the Nigerian economy. So if Nigeria had been talking of diversification for 40, 50, 60 years, the economy can now be said to be diversified, because our GDP, non-oil revenue contributes about 55% to 45% of oil.
The National Assembly says no money has been released for the renovation of the National Assembly complex. Now, this disclaimer follows the leaking of the complex after a heavy downpour on Tuesday. The matter came up again on the floor of the Parliament during Wednesday's plenary when the Senate's Deputy Chief Whip, Abdullahi Sabi, raised a point of order, querying some news reports that followed the incident. Senate President Ahmed Lawan said the incident is a clear vindication on the part of the Parliament over the general decay of the Assembly complex.
There was heavy downpour or leakage even in the chamber. That was not correct. There was leakage, of course, around the premises, outside the chamber, and also it was reported that because of that leakage, it delayed our sitting. That also was not correct. The leadership had housekeeping matters, and of course, until the leadership comes into the chamber, sitting will not begin. They reported the leadership as approving the sum of 37 billion. If you follow what was being reported or comments being made in the social media arising from that report alone, it stops at, they will just tell you last year, 2020, the leadership approved 37 billion, and then they will show rain falling.
This is irresponsible, I must say, because seek the truth, investigate properly before you compile and send your report. Anyone who sees what we have here knows that this place is overdue for rehabilitation. So we went to see Mr. President to complain to him that there's need to rehabilitate and renovate the National Assembly complex, and Mr. President was gracious. He asked us to come back, engage the FCDA, who are the owners of this building. And for emphasis, when we approved the budget of 37 billion naira for the rehabilitation of this complex, it was not a National Assembly budget. It was an FCDA budget. We have nothing to do with this.
Some members of the House of Representatives have raised their reservations over the federal government's decision to suspend the operations of Twitter in Nigeria, citing loss of jobs and businesses influenced through the use of the social media platform. Appearing before the lawmakers on Tuesday, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, listed 3 criteria to be met by the social media giant before the suspension will be lifted. Details in this next report. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has come to honor the invitation of the House Joint Committees on Justice, Commerce and Information over the lingering issue with Twitter. The minister has repeatedly tagged the social media app as a tool of destabilization, and some lawmakers expressed their different opinions on this view.
We have to wait for Mr. President's tweet to be taken down before the nation came to the realization that certain things have been going wrong, perhaps in the social media space.
If you had been proactive, with all due respect, you wouldn't allow all these infractions to go on unchecked until the president's tweet was taken down. Because what you have done, whether you like it or not, sir, looks like some symptoms of emerging totalitarianism.
Sometimes when I'm reading tweets, I'm disappointed with the youths. Why are we bringing issues, trying to cause confusion where there is no confusion? It's just interest. For God's sake, what's social media? Are we eating social media? Let's go back to the resources and harvest it, my brothers. And let's keep this thing aside and face the real problem we're facing in Nigeria.
Lai Mohammed, however, listed out conditions under which the suspension will be lifted.
There are 2 basic things that Twitter or any OTT or social media needs to do, they must first be registered as a Nigerian company, after which they will apply for a license. Other conditions will come up as we go along. If we take into consideration Nigerians doing business on Twitter, and the answer is yes. It's because there's a country called Nigeria that people can do business on any platform. And this is very, very fundamental. Two, there are other platforms, Facebook, Google Hangout, WhatsApp, for people to use. But in a matter of national security, individual interests will lag behind.
The Minister of Information is chairing a federal government delegation on the orders of President Muhammadu Buhari to engage Twitter on how the issue can be resolved. Kebbi State Governor Atiku Bagudu has met with President Muhammadu Buhari over the abduction of students and teachers from the Federal Government College, Benin Yauri. Addressing State House correspondents after the meeting on Tuesday night, the governor urged all Nigerians to come together to end insecurity across the country. Bagudu also assured that all necessary measures are in place to ensure the safe release of the captors.
President has, as always, expressed sympathy to those innocent persons who are held hostage against their will by terror element, and he condemned the action of all terror groups wherever they are, whether they are bandits, Boko Haram, or any group that is taking away the liberty and freedoms, and in fact lives and livelihoods of others. And he maintained the instruction he has always given to the security agencies to give their maximum best in dealing with those criminal elements. This is condemnable. This should not happen, and all people of goodwill, all good people should mobilize to confront evil elements and criminal elements in our society. It's not just a job for the security agencies. We have to support them.
The challenge of insecurity has tremendously contributed to the number of out-of-school children in the country, especially in the northern region. With many more students having to quit school for safety, analysts and key stakeholders say this portends danger for Nigeria's education sector. Our correspondent Abisola Adebayo tells us more in this next report.
The coronavirus pandemic, coupled with an existing inequality in the Nigerian education sector, has driven millions of children out of the classroom. And the hopes of many children to get formal education in the country's north is currently being challenged by incessant attacks on schools and abduction of students by bandits. The Ministry of Education has pegged the number of out-of-school children at 10.5 million. But with scores of schools either shut or relocated as a result of insecurity, this figure may not be a true reflection of reality.
It's a worrisome trend, because when you look at what happened in Chibok about close to 7 years ago now, it was the focus was on girls. But right now, they've not only shifted to males, but they have also shifted to tertiary institutions. In other words, there's a calculated attempt to completely destroy the educational system in the north, from primary to tertiary level. And this is very worrisome, because against the backdrop of the fact that these are areas that are already described as educationally disadvantaged states in Nigeria. Nigeria, with our population, with our economy, with our capacity, with our democracy, we are not supposed to be on the list of those of the countries that should be categorized as having one of the highest number of out-of-school children in the world.
The level of security provided for schools has also come under question, with experts calling for the full implementation of the Safe School initiative, which seeks to prevent such incidents.
With the number of policemen or security services we have, is not enough to cover all the schools. It's time for them to tighten up what they should do by strengthening up the areas and all the schools. A lot of gaps are existing in our security system that needs to be worked seriously and urgently.
In some cases, some of the abducted students have been killed. Security expert says the no-negotiation stance of the government is the best if backed with more proactive measures.
There will be zero tolerance to ransom payment because it is the ransom, the payment of ransom, that is making this business to boom. So we have to agree. The government have to come out and say, look, we are not going to pay ransom. And at the same time, the citizens have to understand that yes, government will not pay ransom, and we are not going to pay either. Government agencies, special forces that are trained to deal with this should be out there looking for them.
After conducting a vulnerability survey of all schools in the country, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps says it plans to work with the Ministry of Education to provide adequate security coverage for schools. Abisola Adebayo, TV360, Lagos.
Human trafficking is rated after drug trafficking as the second largest crime activity in the world, with $150 billion raked in as profit yearly off the exploitation of people. To ensure that the proceeds of this crime are traced and confiscated, the Action Against Trafficking in Persons and Smuggling of Migrants, ATIPSOM, in conjunction with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has organized a 3-day workshop to enhance the capacity of law enforcement agents in conducting parallel financial investigations into the proceeds of traffickers and smugglers. The organizers stressed the need for more investigation and prosecution of traffickers and smugglers to help reduce the menace in Nigeria.
The investigation and prosecution of human traffickers and smugglers needs to be strengthened. Prosecution that will uphold the rule of law, ensure community safety, protect victims, and help to prevent future crime by convicted offenders. The training will therefore enable the relevant agencies in member states to combat the prevalence of corruption in the public sector across the sub-region and call for the reinforcement of anti-corruption measures in its citizens by instilling in its citizens the values that have been lost as a result of decades of deprivation and upheaval and their consequences.
By the clear provision of Section 53 of the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition and Enforcement Act 2015, the agency is mandated to investigate assets and properties of an arrested person. NAPTIP will, after this training, establish a financial investigation unit to be domiciled in the investigation department to ensure that proceeds of trafficking in persons are traced and forfeited to the federal government.
The agencies have been working hard to ensure that they get convictions for traffickers and smugglers. But that to this project is not enough. We want to make sure that they are stripped of the gains that they have made through these ill-gotten wealth.
President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, has said the NLC would resume its suspended industrial action in Kaduna State over the mass sacking of workers and other anti-labor practices by Governor Nasir El-Rufai's administration. In an emergency National Executive Council meeting presided over by Waba, the union alleged breach of agreements by the state government and directed its state councils and affiliate unions to be ready for the latest action.
As we speak, more than 1/3 of the states have not implemented the minimum wage. And even where implementation have taken place, they are currently under threat because of some of those recommendations. And therefore, it's about the survival now of the fittest. Withdraw all services and protest this neoliberal and extreme right-wing policy should take effect without further delay. And that mobilization of all our state councils on all affiliates should take place immediately, and that all employers of labor should be put on notice as required by our extant law.
Waba also called on workers to withdraw services if the recommendation to increase the pump price of fuel is approved by the federal government.
We have also put as a decision of NEC that the recommendation of the Governors Forum via the El-Rufai Committee to increase the pump price of PMS from the current 162 to 380 or 408 should be rejected by the federal government because of the reasons we have advanced. But in any instance where these decisions are taken, we have also decided that services will be withdrawn by workers across board.
Well, we'll take a break here, but still to come, Nigeria spends 1 trillion naira on debt servicing in 2021 first quarter. Details of that and more shortly. Thank you for staying with us on News Now. Here is a quick reminder of some of our top stories tonight. President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated the National Steering Committee of the National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy to be chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. President Buhari says his government is committed to lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years with a well-researched framework for implementation and funding. We also told you that the National Assembly has explained that no money was released for the renovation of the National Assembly complex. Also, the lawmakers said the National Assembly and its leadership is not responsible for the maintenance and renovation of the National Assembly complex, and they have not received a sum of 37 billion naira or any amount for the renovation. In case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. Well, the coronavirus infection rates are on the rise in Nigeria, with the NCDC reporting 39 cases in the past 24 hours. According to the Public Health Agency, the new cases were reported from 6 states, with Lagos recording 17, while Borno and Ondo followed with 7 and 6 cases respectively. No new death was recorded, maintaining the death toll at 2,118. To date, 167,331 cases have been confirmed, while 163,913 cases have been discharged in 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Well, we'll take a pause here and return with business stories. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now to give us business news, we have Abisola Adibayo standing by. Over to you now, Abisola.
Thank you very much, Oyin. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian government spent a sum of 1.02 trillion naira on domestic and foreign debt service in the first quarter of 2021, representing a 35.7% year-on-year increase compared to 753.7 billion naira spent in the corresponding year of 2020. This is according to the Debt Service Payments Report for the first quarter of 2021 released by the Debt Management Office. The data revealed that 612.71 billion naira was spent on domestic debt service, while 410.1 billion naira was expended on servicing of external debt. We'll take a short break here and return with stock market review. The bears extended its grip on the Nigerian stock market today, deepening its loss by a significantly wider margin. The all-share index dipped by 0.11 leaving the equities cap still hanging below the 20 trillion naira mark. The bears really mean business because it's the third time this week it's dominating the market. The total value of equities plunged by over 22 billion naira, and this is largely attributed by sell-off pressures in Royalex. The financial services stock recorded a 10% decline on its share price in a single trading session, and it's the lead of our top losers today. Paul Gold from the oil and gas sector is also in the top decliners category. It recorded a 5 kobo loss at the end of trading, while on the flip side, that's our top gainers for today. FTN Cocoa and Ikeja Hotel made up our two top gainers. They had a combined 12 kobo increase, and market summary says a total of 208.3 million volume of transactions took place in over 3,000 deals worth over 1.6 billion naira on the floor of the market. Moving on now to our foreign scene, the FTSE, the Dow Jones and the Nikkei are all in the negative territory. London FTSE is in the red as economic data showed inflation pressures hit record levels this month, while gains in travel and commodity-linked stocks were offset by slide in consumer staples. It's recording a 0.22% decline. The Dow Jones also, even though it rallied briefly before turning lower as Tesla stock surged, it's in 0.042% decline. That's what it recorded. While Japan stocks, which has been in the negative since the beginning of the week, also dipped lower today to record a 0.032% decline. That's all on Stock Market Review. Over to Oyin for the rest of the news.
Well, thank you for that update, Bisola. On the foreign scene, dozens of people have been reportedly killed or injured after Ethiopia's Air Force bombed a market in the northern region of Tigray. Doctors at the main hospital in Mekelle says they are treating dozens of people, including a 2-year-old child left injured by the airstrike. But the Ethiopian military has denied targeting civilians, saying it carried out the strikes to kill terrorists. Ethiopia's army took control of Tigray's capital in November last year, but the rebel forces are said to have made advances in recent days. Well, it's now time for Entertainment Report on News Now.
Are you saying Donna left property and money and they want me to go to overseas?
Global streaming platform Netflix recently surprised its Nigerian subscribers with Nollywood classic Osofia in London. Produced by Kingsley Ogoro and Kola Muniz, the comedy follows the hilarious story of the title character who leaves Nigeria to London following the demise of his brother Donatus, who had left him a sole inheritance to his will. Parts 1 and 2 of the movie is currently available to stream on the platform, and it stars Nkem Owo, Mara Dawent, Sebastian All, Mara Ashton, among others. Nigerian singer Orezi has slammed the housemates from the 5th season of the Nigeria's most watched reality TV show Big Brother Naija. The music star made this known while reacting to the recent revelations among the housemates in its reunion season. In his words, the internet no dey forget oh. These things will come back and hurt you. I hope you know and you're ready to deal with it when it comes back hunting. And that is all that's for your entertainment segment of News Now.
And in sports, Super Eagles of Nigerian midfielder Frank Onyeka, who also plies his trade with Midtjylland in the Danish Superliga, is all set to join Premier League newcomers Brentford ahead of the 2021-2022 seasons. Onyeka, who has featured just once for Nigeria, is regarded as one of the most talented players in Denmark, with 12 goals in 80 appearances for the club since he joined in 2017. FC Midtjylland is set to sell the player to Brentford, with the club joining the Premier League after being away for 74 years. And that's it on News Now. At this time, we thank you for watching. I am Oyi Adekunle. Bye for now.